we have to.
Oh, I think it's been live streamed now.
Got it. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Becky, and I am here with a very special guest from Materic, Ronish. He's going to talk about the process of electrospinning in the light of how it can be scaled up, and also the chemical processing behind it. I think we want to listen from Ronish right now, and then I'll jump in later. So, Ronish, it's to you.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Ronish. I work for Materic. I'm the lead scientist and engineer here at Materic. My background is mostly in chemical engineering, but I've been leading up all the electrospinning projects here at Materic for about 2 years now. Today, I really want to just talk about all the stuff that Materic does in terms of mostly targeted towards electrospinning and give you an example of a chemical process scaling that we're currently undertaking at Materic, which is pretty exciting, related to nanofibers, of course, and will provide a lot of discussion and interesting feedback from you guys as well. So I think I'll just go ahead and start sharing my screen from here. Just bring up my slides. So yeah, for today, I'll be talking about the commercialization of carbon nanofiber mats as gas diffusion layers for fuel cells. As I mentioned, for Materic, I've been working mostly in the electrospinning department, but Materic as a whole does more than that. It manufactures materials of the future. We have our hands in specialty textile, nanomaterials, where all the electrospinning is involved, in specialty inks and controlled release. Controlled release is also related to our nanomaterials because we do make electrospun nanofiber mats with active pharmaceutical ingredients that are set for controlled release. And we also have a 3D printing shop. At Materials, we custom manufacture and design advanced materials from ideation to scale up. So we could start from a small prototype or a lab scale method and then translate that to a pilot line and then talk about custom manufacturing or to going to a commercial line for our customers that are worldwide. We also work with a lot of government and government agencies and departments on their various contracts to manufacture these materials. We have a very expert and adept team of scientists, engineers, and designers that drive all phases of product development from like the starting, from the invention to prototyping to scale manufacturing. And then all this process involves a lot of optimization. We do a lot of testing in the middle and work with the customer or with the government or with the funding agencies directly when we are working to come up with a product that is that meets their needs and meets the consumers' end goals as well. Materic, we've been operating in Baltimore for about almost a decade now, since 2012. We own and operate different companies that solve difficult problems and solutions in the material science space specifically. We are located so close to the Raven Stadium here that you see in the picture here. Currently, we just moved to our new facility, which is over 30,000 square foot of manufacturing, development, and business operations to provide research services as well as contract manufacturing to the customers that we have worldwide. And these are some of the diverse capabilities that we use to invent and produce our materials. As I mentioned, we have some of the electrospinners, one from Innovenso itself. We also now have, since last year, have a dedicated clean room space for one of our electrospinners where we do manufacturing of medical device and products related to nanofibers. We have characterization and analysis equipment in the form of PGAs, DSCs, some contact angle measurements, viscometers. We also have OCTs and imaging and metrology capabilities. We also do some textile treatments at our lab, which was sort of our ideation, where we started off Materic from. Cutting and packaging areas, cutting tools, die cutting, laser cutting, a lot of mixing stations that are also involved with nanofibers. We do also post-process the nanofibers in a variety of different ways, either through liquid baths, thermal processing. So we have ovens of different sizes and capabilities, capable of working in different atmospheres that are used for this. And we also have a smaller biolab for validating some of our pharmaceutical and medical device products that we develop from our electrospinners. And this is an events webinar, so you all must be very familiar with electrospinning, but just to briefly go over the fundamentals of electrospinning. Here we have a polymer or a plastic that is mixed in a compatible solvent. It is homogeneously mixed either by a magnetic stirring or any other method. Then that mixed polymer solution is extruded through a needle to the tip of a needle, and the tip of the needle is charged with an electrical field. So an electrical force is applied to the droplet of the polymer solution that is being extruded out from the syringe. That droplet has its own surface tension, and once the electric field is high enough that the surface tension of the droplet is overcome, it starts erupting into a jet in the form of a Taylor cone or a cone-like structure here. This jet, once it erupts, goes through a series of stretching and elongation, at which point the solvent that the polymer is dissolvent is also evaporating. So at the end, with enough stretching and elongations, you end up with ultrafine nanofibers of the polymer itself, which can range from tens of nanometers to a few micrometers in some cases. We've seen a lot of different variations of the electrospinning process itself. Some common ones are, instead of collecting onto a flat plate, we could also collect into a mandrel or a rotating drum. The mode of extrusion of the polymer could also be different. Some common ones are the wire or even the ball spinneret, where the solution is either coated on top of a wire, which is charged, or onto a ball, which has electric field applied to it. So these are some of the common variations of electrospinning and how electrospinning works in general. Then moving forward, I just want to establish phases, the different phases of an electrospinning product. I mean, when we're talking about a product, people might think of like a lot of different approaches to differentiate between the different phases that the product goes through. But for electrospinning, when we have customers, when we have agencies coming to us, we've definitely been able to differentiate it into three different distinct sections. First one is a lab scale section where somebody has an idea, either a research or academic institution, conceptualizes that idea on a single needle-based system. They produce prototypes which are generally less than 25 square centimeters in dimensions. And with these, even these smaller results, even these smaller prototypes, they're able to see very promising results for their applications. But now that they have these promising results and the promising technology, they need to scale it up. And that's where we come in at phase 2 and phase 3, where we're working firstly with the pilot phase of phase 2, where now instead of using a single needle, we're using a larger amount of needles or nozzles or a wire-based system and depositing into larger areas. Here we have both our systems, which are 0.5 meter wide rolls. So we can make 0.5 meter wide rolls that are hundreds of meters in length. When we're doing these optimizations, we also focus heavily on using scalable chemicals. So in the lab, people are generally using research grade chemicals and solvents, some which might not even have a large scale supplier. So the first thing to do is just make them aware of that and suggest alternatives that might fit their needs, which have a large scale supplier. Some solvents that are used in the lab are also pretty toxic. HFIP is a common polymer that is used in electrospinning, but in terms of scaling that up, it is extremely difficult and toxic, and meeting the regulations might be extremely hard. Some solvents are also harder to recover. As I mentioned, in the electrospinning process, all the solvent evaporates during the electrospinning process, and recapturing that solvent can recapturing and recycling that solvent can improve the economics of the process, but some solvents are just harder to recapture. So we make them aware of that as well and try to move forward with the most scalable and efficient chemistries and raw materials. Once we're translating from the lab scale to the pilot scale, meeting the target specs that people were seeing on the lab scale is also very important. The process is slightly different. It's a continuous process, not a batch one. So we might end up with a lot of differences. So optimizations have to be done to meet those target specs. And the most important one is reproducibility, just reproducing that at different conditions, different days. And so that all the procedures that we develop for the phase 2, for the pilot scale, can be transferred to phase 3, the commercial scale, which is just the pilot or the commercial production of the material, which is usually done in greater than 1 meter wide roll. Here, the focus is less on the technical aspects, but more on meeting the cost and production requirements. So the major importance of the phase 2 is that the procedures that we develop in the phase 2 can be translated to the commercial systems. Both El Marco and Innovenso itself have both pilot scale tools that are easily transferable to their commercial scale tools as well. But methods that are developed in the lab scale are only good for verifying chemistry, whereas the methods developed for the pilot scale can just with a few small levels of optimization be translated to larger scale machines.
Can you tell us, sorry to cut you, can you tell us some of the challenges that you face from going from phase 1 to phase 2, especially because I can understand from a small lab scale project to a multi-nozzle, going to a more full-fledged pilot scale, like, using 50 nozzles. What are some of the challenges that you face?
So yeah, the people who are doing lab scale processes in batch methods, the runs are generally smaller. And when we're producing into pilot scale, it's like probably hours and hours worth of runs. So a lot of different defects or parameters that were not important in the lab scale become important in the pilot scale. One of the biggest ones that we usually see is that humidity is a big concern when we're doing work with the pilot scale machines because of the moisture that is present in the environment that the material is being electrospun at. At lab scale is not so much of a concern because the process finishes very quickly, but for the pilot scale, you need to have tighter controls in terms of the environmental parameters, humidity specifically, because we are using a solvent that needs to evaporate. And if there is a lot of moisture present in the environment that you're working in, then that becomes a big concern that leads to a lot of wetting and defects on the collected mat. Other than that, the main issues that we usually see is a lot of academic institutions coming to us with like requests that I mentioned of using these specialty chemicals. And then we have to tell them that, yeah, we have to find an alternative before moving forward because it just doesn't work in the large scale.
I see. Perfect. Thank you.
And yeah, moving forward. Mhm. So yeah, here I've just listed out the exorbitant number of inputs and outputs that are of significance to the electrospinning process. As you can see on the left here, there's a ton of inputs that we can work with when going to the pilot line scale, anywhere from solution parameters, the choice of polymers, electrospinning parameters, and post-processing parameters. The more time you spend on the input parameters, the narrower your output ranges will be, the narrower the standard deviation of the values that you're looking for. As I said, again, humidity is a big concern. So the electrospinner that we have positioned at the dedicated clean room space has its own HVAC control. We also, in addition to that, we have supersized 2 desiccant-based humidifiers transporting controlled dehumidified air to the system. So we've been able to tackle that issue pretty effectively now. But yeah, a lot of variables to work with, a lot of design experiments that can be performed, and the more you do with the inputs, the better your outputs and the range of the outputs that you will expect. So these are some of the Electrospin products and that Materic currently manufactures and sells on his website. One of the first and the most exciting ones that we just released is our Coila Web carbon nanofiber mats, which I'll be diving more into detail later on to discuss the scale-up efforts that we're currently undertaking with this. We also have piezoelectric and piezoresistive yarns and strips that have a host of different applications. They produce an electrical output upon a mechanical stress. We produce biopapers of gelatin and PCl that are used for tissue and cell engineering scaffolds. We also produce some specialty filter materials, ceramic nanofibers of zirconia and titanium. Some of the example projects that we're working on, the one I mentioned was the gas diffusion layer for fuel cells, for which we use the Coil Web carbon nanofiber mats, capturing lithium from brines, the patches for cosmetics or wound care. We've also made some biodegradable non-wovens. We are currently working with the EPA on designing biodegradable electrospun nanofibers, filter materials for wildfire smoke. So that's pretty interesting as well. And we're also continuously looking at creating a scalable method for aligned fibers and yarns because the current electrospinning processes that we have set up are for randomly oriented non-wovens, not aligned ones. So we currently have a method to make batch of aligned fibers, but trying to streamline and make that more continuous moving forward. And yeah, so today I'll be focusing on the scale up for the Coila Web carbon nanofiber mats as gas diffusion layers for fuel cells. Before we move on to that, I just want to touch briefly on what a GDL is. A gas diffusion layer is one of the most crucial and indispensable parts of fuel cell stack, membrane electrode assembly of the fuel cell. It is a medium through which gases are supplied between the bipolar plate to the catalytic and the cathode and the anion plates. And it's also responsible for managing the water within the cell to drive enough hydration to the catalyst layers while not letting the cell overflood. It also has the functions of transporting electrons between the bipolar plates, and the nanofiber morphology of the gas diffusion layers significantly affects its function. So the nanofiber morphology also then in turn significantly affects the entire performance of the fuel cell. Electrospin Electrospun GDLs have become more and more popular over the last decade because electrospinning has that benefit of controlling nanofiber morphology and dimensions. It has significantly finer diameters and pores compared to commercial GTLs. And electrospinning is a very custom and tunable method. The fuel cell technology itself is always growing, currently growing right now, and has new and evolving demands. And with a custom method like electrospinning, we are able to meet those growing demands and ensuring the future proofness of our method. It is simple and scalable. I mean, when you go to larger scales and commercial lines, it does get a little complicated, but the theory behind electrospinning is pretty simple. You have a polymer solution and a high electric field applied to it. So the theoretical fundamental behind that is pretty simple as well. And electrospun GTLs also may eliminate one of the post-coating steps of commercial GTLs. The commercial GTLs undergo coating with the microporous layers. With electrospun nanofibers, we can probably get rid of this entire manufacturing step altogether, which saves us in terms of cost extremely when we go into larger scales. And yeah, one of the big pushes that we received to scale up these GTLs was recently from the US Department of Energy. Materic was selected for a $10 million contract from the Department of Energy to commercialize the production of these GTLs. This entire award or contract was part of a larger $750 million bipartisan infrastructure law aimed at dramatically reducing the cost of clean hydrogen and strengthening the supply chain of GTLs within the US. So our effort, which we call Spin into Power, which is the scale production of integrated non-woven GTLs for fuel cells, is a collaborated 4-year effort with our collaborators at Los Alamos National Labs and Plug Power. Plug Power is one of the largest fuel cell manufacturers and also one of the end users of these fuel cells. University of Toronto is the place where the idea was firstly initiated. So we'll be leading this collaborative 4-year effort to commercially scale the production of these GTLs into a single manufacturing line capable of producing more than 65,000 square meters of GTL material per year, which according to DOE is the 10% of the national demand estimate. Yeah, so with this, I will be following a similar kind of approach of the different phases that I just explained on the phases of an electrospun product with what we saw with our electrospun GTLs. So the first phase where the idea is invented or conceptualized, that was done by Professor Amy Beslak at the University of Toronto. Her group electrospun nanofibers of a polymer called polyacrylonitrile, which was thermally post-processed into carbon nanofibers. They were able to see comparable output and performance to the state-of-the-art GTLs. They were also able to see lower frequency and mass transport resistance values that were very promising results. But all of Toronto's work was on a needle-based system. The active sample area that they were working with was less than a square centimeters, and Plug Power, which is a large-scale manufacturer of these fuel cells, was very interested in technologies, was very interested in this particular technology, but could not work with the small sample area. So that's when they reached out to us, Materic, as experts in nanomaterials and roll-to-roll electrospinning, to be able to scale up this process to pilot and eventually commercial scale. And then that is when we worked with it and when we were awarded that $10 million grant from the Department of Energy. So when the project came to us at Materic, we transformed the large-scale batch process to a continuous roll-to-roll manufacturing process of electrospinning, where we electrospun the material. Firstly, we had to go over the raw materials the polymer that they were using was of research grade material. So we had to switch that to a higher grade, a grade that was more in supply for large scale. The choice of polymer, the reason that we do this is very important because even if we switch from a lab scale polymer of the same molecular weight to a larger scale polymer of the same molecular weight, there might still be other differences in the polydispersive index. So making this change, making this suggestion in the beginning is very important. So we do that. And then also the choice of solvent, similar instructions with the choice of solvent. For this particular formulation, we use dimethylformamide as a solvent, which is hygroscopic. So precise control of the humidity was very important because the solvent itself picks up moisture, in turn, like not letting it evaporate during the electrospinning process, which causes a lot of defects in the final fiber mat. We were able to translate from the lab scale to the pilot scale and produce rolls and rolls of this material. And this process also came with an added challenge of thermal post-processing. So we had to inquire and set up ovens and furnaces that were capable of handling these large rolls of material and thermally process them into the final carbon nanofiber mats. So this entire process, I think we spent about a year or slightly more than a year in electrospinning, trying to get the mat that was suitable to their needs. We were continuously providing the samples that we produced on our roll-to-roll system for their testing to compare and optimizing it to meet and produce a type of material that they saw with their lab scale method. And eventually we were able to produce and meet the physical properties that they wanted in terms of fiber diameter, thickness, and air density, and also meet some of the electrochemical stats that they were looking for, the specs that they were looking for in terms of current density, voltage, and resistance. The material that we produced also had significantly lower transfer resistance at many tested different current densities, which further bolstered our claim into translating into the pilot line scale. And then finally, as part of our 4-year collaborative effort, we'll be scaling up this process. Year 1 will still be optimizing and screening in the pilot line itself, but we'll still be producing around 6,000 square meters on a 0.5 meter wide pilot line. At the end of year 2, we'll be translating the electrospinning process to a full width, about 1.6 meter wide commercial electrospinner to reach that production capacity of 65,000 square meters per year. And then we'll be collaborating with Los Alamos and Plug Power to do all the testing that's required. And with America, which is a large-scale thermal processing partner, which can process these carbon nanofiber mats, these polyacrylonitrile nanofiber mats into carbon nanofibers in a continuous line stream fashion.
I see.
Yeah. So yeah, that was main crux of translating the lab scale process to the pilot line. I mean, the viability of the raw materials makes a big difference starting off initially. Once we move to a larger scale, either a pilot or a commercial scale, we need to control over a higher number of process variables. Some newer process variables get introduced that are not really part of the lab scale method. And then we also have to specify the tolerance that we want on the targets. If we want a narrower range on the outputs that we want, then just more works need to be done, more optimizations need to be performed. And the procedures that we develop now for the pilot scale are easily transferred to the commercial scale, whereas the lab method was only there for making the chemistry make sense. Whereas now the pilot scale methods, with the pilot scale procedures that we have, we can simply purchase a commercial electrospinner and do our work on that because it's already a roll-to-roll system. We might still see some differences when we transfer from a 0.5 meter wide roll to the 1.6 meter wide roll, but that optimization will be far less involved than the optimization required going from the lab scale to the pilot line. And yeah, the larger the amount of experiments that we have in the pilot line or with the inputs that we work with on the electrospinning, that will lead to a narrower window of the solution targets that we perform. So this carbon nanofiber mat is just was a very exciting opportunity for us because we are able to see the technology from its ideation to a full commercial scale. So yeah, we'll be expanding a lot capabilities and both in terms of electrospinning analysis of the nanofibers itself. So we're going to be gaining a lot of expertise and value around that as well. And since this is targeted towards improving supply chains, improving domestic supply chains, and also working towards hydrogen fuel cells, which is a clean energy. So that's also excites us and very promising as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ronish. So there are a couple of questions that I have for you, and then we will see if we have any questions from the audience. So the first one is that the carbon nanofiber mat that you're talking about, when the project came to you, what were the first few things that came to your mind when you got this project? And I do understand that you were excited and you got pretty good results. But when you were actually, I mean, if I talk about when you were actually working from scaling up it from the lab scale, especially from a single nozzle and going up to multi-nozzle on a roll-to-roll system, what came to your mind and how you came up with these salads and what ideation actually made it through to this project for you?
As Materic, I mean, we've been in this space for a number of years now. So we have experience spinning a lot of different types of polymers. Polyacrylonitrile was one of them. So luckily we were able to get that rolling pretty quickly. One of the other challenges with the process was the post-processing steps, the stabilization and the carbonation steps. So that just adds a lot of more variables into the process. So we really had to set the electrospinning process intact before moving on to the polymer side of it. And one of the major challenges with this particular polymer was getting the environmental controls in check. For that, yeah, we really had to have our own HVAC controls, monitor that efficiently in a timely fashion, calibrate all those sensors in a regular, timely fashion, and move forward with that. So yeah, that was some of those major challenges that came to mind.
Okay. So is there any other process other than electrospinning that you think could be more beneficial, especially for this application or any other application in the future, especially in the formation of nanofibers?
Yeah, electrospinning itself, because because of the controlled formation of these nanofiber scaffolds, electrospinning is one of the best for this method itself. In terms of moving the process further, I mean, as I showed you on some of the previous slides, there are different variations of electrospinning that are coming forward itself, like the wire-based or the ball-based, the ball spinneret-based, like different collectors mats as well. So I think with enough optimization and work around electrospinning itself, it can reach to a higher scale than it is currently at right now. But yeah, electrospinning is one of the major technologies that everybody's excited towards. Nanofibers, because of its unique properties of high surface area to volume ratio, porosity, is being applicable to a lot of products that are currently in the market and creating new products altogether in some markets. So yeah, it's a great time to be in electrospinning right now.
Perfect. So I think we can move forward to Waleed now and see what he has to say on this topic. And perhaps let's see what audience has to say further from there. Waleed, thank you so much for being here, Ronish. Waleed, so we are going to give you the platform and let's start and see what you have on this topic for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ronish, for the wonderful presentation. I am going to share my screen. Uh, okay, just give me a second. So I believe you can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, uh, so I'm the customer support specialist and R&D engineer at Innovanso. So I'm going to highlight our company's profile, what we are doing as a company, and what we are, what services are we providing for electrospinning or electrospraying technologies, and how we are helping different companies to achieve their goals in achieving nanofiber structures and nanoparticulate structures. So We are based in Turkey as well as USA, and we also have an office in Korea. So about us, so Innovenso, as you can see, the name itself, it means innovative technologies or innovative solutions. And here we aim to devise the client specific or the user specific solutions in terms of electrospinning devices. And as I will explain later also, so we help different people in achieving uh, the electrospinning solutions regarding their application. This is our main mission, and our vision is to provide the solutions according to the different applications and the clients. So the core value that we have is we are highly customer oriented. So and the first and foremost thing that we you can say feel pride in that we always look for solutions for the customer. And even before sale or after sale of our machines, we are still in contact with them. We are trying to help them even after many years. If someone contacts us, so we are readily uh, going forward to help them. Let's move forward. So we have 15 years of experience from laboratory scale to the industrial scale electrospinning system. And we have done a lot of work with a lot of different polymers, a lot of different companies in different applications. So we have you can say, a huge experience in this field, not only in designing the machines themselves, but also in the R&D itself. And as Ronish was mentioning, that there are many parameters that are involved in lab scale machines, but when you go to the higher scales, things start to become a little bit different. So with this experience that we have, we second to what Ronish has just said, and it really is a matter of scaling up. And you know that there are some challenges that you have not faced in the lab scale. So in lab scale also, like you need a lot of control. So the machines that we make have you can have a lot of control in the laboratory scale as well. And when you go to the pilot scale and when you go to the industrial scale, there are slight changes. There was a mention of the challenges, including the climatic or the atmospheric conditions. So there are also other challenges that you might face. For example, like you might need even increased amount of voltage to make the solutions from the rods or the spinnerets to go to the substrate, because there is a lot of electrostatic interference between the different sources of electrospinning. So this is like I'm just highlighting a little bit about our experience in lab scale and in industrial scale and what challenges one might face. So we help a lot of customers in achieving their goals, not only in terms of making custom design electrospinning machines, but also helping them to achieve their final product in the form of R&D. So I will explain a little bit about this. So our first lab scale machine was made in 2007, and we made our first industrial scale machine prototype in 2008. Then the company itself was founded as Innovenso Limited Corporation, and then we made our first industrial scale machine installation, which was NS416. And moving fast forward, we are also established in Boston, and we have our patented technologies, hybrid electrospin technology, which Materic is also using. And we also have stream spinner technology, which is an open surface technology. And we have also designed other machines that are not highlighted here. But the main aim of this page is to show that how the company has grown over time. And we have a lot of following on the web as well. And we are being seeked out by a lot of companies We are one of the leading sellers of electrospinning devices. So overall, we have 30 plus products or customized machines. Our machines or devices are in 65, more than 65 countries. And not only that, the production of machine is not only thing that we have achieved, but also we have a lot of research and development projects. We are involved in national projects. We are involved in international projects. We do a lot of collaborative work apart from helping the customers. So I think I can skip this part because Ronish has already explained what are nanofibers and how they are. However, I would like to explain about the electrospraying. So usually people are more focused on spinning, and there is a huge potential of the same machines in producing nanoparticulate structures. So sometimes people have electrospinning, and we did electrospun nanofibers or porous nanospun fibers. But the same method can be used for mass production or gram level production of nanoparticles as well. This is something that is a very seeked out thing, in especially in the pharmaceutical industries, in coating industries, that you have a huge control of the nanoparticle size that you do at coating. So the same electrospinning machines can be used as electrospraying machines. The application areas are wide, and as Ronish was mentioning, you can go into battery and fuel cells, supercapacitors, in summary, energy-based applications. Then you have a huge potential in healthcare. Then you also have, including tissue engineering, wound dressing, drug delivery, and biosensors. Even you can have non-biosensors, simple sensors, electrochemical sensors as well, that are utilizing the electrospinning technology. Then you have water and environmental applications, including water treatment, uh, filtration capacities that can be enhanced by using electrospun mats. Oil filtration can be done. Different type of filtrations can be reached. Ultrafiltration can be reached. Photocatalysis and chemical and gas sensing can be done as well. So our technology is both a hybrid nozzle, and we also use open surface. Here in the open surface, you have a slit on which the polymer is being deposited, and by a moving robotic arm. And then from this open surface, you have spontaneous jets emerging, and they are spinning onto a substrate. So this is a bottom-up approach where the solution or the spinners are at the bottom side and the substrate is on the top side. So, and the next one is our hybrid electrospinning technology. Usually people use needles, but the needles have their own challenges, like uh, you need to replace the needles, you need to clean the needles or throw them away. So that creates a lot of waste, and it can have a lot of impact on environment. So this technology allows us to use clogging-free spinnerets, and from the same spinneret you can have multiple jets emerging. In contrast with open surface, like if we compare the hybrid and the open surface, the hybrid is high throughput as compared to the needles, and the open surface is much high throughput than the hybrid itself. So you can say that you are multiplying the production capacity when you are moving from hybrid to open surface and when you are moving from needle to hybrid. So these are the different scales of production, because open surface can be used. Both of these technologies can be used in industrial scale. However, you can use hybrid electrospinning in lab scale as well. These are some of our lab scale systems. You can have a simple starter kit. You can have different pumps, multiple pumps. You can have a system in which this is a lab scale system in which you can have a movable or controllable distance in a small system. And here you have a closed equipment which has movable stage. You have a rotating collector and everything. This is a NE series and NS series. So all of these systems are controlled via user interface. Here you have our pilot scale nozzle-based systems. In these nozzle-based systems, the main difference is the substrate size on which the production is going on. So, for example, if I'm talking about PE 300, the 300 means substrate size is 300 millimeter, which can be effectively coated. So as you change the scale, going up to 550 means 55 centimeters or 550 millimeters, you are increasing the number of nozzles that are electrospinning onto the substrate. And also this overall increases your production capacity. Same, so with NS416, you can increase even more. And it can, depending on the polymer, depending on the type of spinning that you are getting, you can always modify your rods and modify the number of uh, e- alternate your number of nozzles. You can increase, you can decrease depending on the response of the polymer. And finally, in our industrial scale machines, we have open surface system. And in this, we have a 550 millimeter substrate size, 1000 and 1600 millimeter or 1.6 meter size. Again, these are all closed systems. You can adjust the humidity, you can apply ventilation, you can give heat, and you can control the atmospheric parameters, you can control the flow rate and everything that a normal electrospinning system does. And you can have continuous roll-to-roll production as well. These are some of the products that we have, like cosmetic masks. We can have acne patches, eye patches, facial masks. We also produce some filtration membranes, like, and we have masks like N95 and N99, where N99 means filtration level up to 99%. As I mentioned earlier, we are not only designing machines and manufacturing machines, but we also are helping our customers. We provide them services to achieve a certain type of product from proof of concept or a prototype, and we can take that product to the final scale, which is industrialization scale, or up till the industrial scale machines, where you can have a roll-to-roll production, continuous production with homogeneous structure of desired product. So apart from that, we are involved in different projects, including our national projects and international projects. For example, we are involved with AFWA, MIT, Kazma and there are other projects we have applied for funding. And the main applications that we are targeting includes design of new machines for novel applications, water treatment filtration, waterproof membranes for textiles, and filter-based air cleaning, food packaging, high-performance textiles, energy photovoltaic cells, and recently we also got involved into pharmaceutical applications as well. These are the list of completed projects that we have and the international projects we are involved in. So we are looking forward for more collaborations. And finally, we have this contract manufacturing. For example, if you have a ready recipe and you want to make a ready product, you want to have a product that is ready to commercialize, then you can contact us and we can produce that solution, that recipe in our industrial scale machines. We can sign the letter of confidentiality, we can have a non-disclosure agreement, and we can produce those products in mass scale, which can range from for different applications, for example, biomedical, pharmaceutical, filtration, cosmetics, energy, and other categories. And if you do not have a recipe and still you want to produce something that that you think is commercializable, then you come to us and you can ask us about a certain type of uh, application ability of that product, and we can develop something for you, and we can take it from a proof of concept to the commercialization step. So that is also possible. And in future, the one of the challenges that is we are trying to encounter is the mass commercialization of the nanofiber products. And we are also looking forward to bridge the gap between academia and industry. We want to get involved in more and more projects, and we are looking for a lot of partners that can help us in improving or moving forward this field of innovation. And we are looking for new innovations in our machine technologies. And we are trying to combine other technologies with the electrospinning technologies. And we are looking for a lot of new type of products. So this is all from my side. And if you have anything to, okay, this is all from my side.
I have a
Do you
question,
have any
Walid.
questions?
On
Yes.
the open surface electrospinning, in terms of the range of fiber diameters that you're able to get, is that wider than with the nozzle-based systems?
It's comparable. It's not that high. It's
Mm.
comparable within a short range. A few, you can say, there is a plus minus for different type of polymers, and we can have a narrow range. It's not that wide range. Within few
Okay.
hundred nanometers. It's like,
I know for the hybrid nozzle-based systems, you also have the option for the coaxial spinner. Is there an option like that with the open surface, or?
no, in open surface, we do not have something like that, but this is something that we can design also. So if you have a certain type of new idea, we are open to any new idea. For
Mm.
example, if you want to have a coaxial system, we can design something in which you can have coaxial type nanofibers. So our production team is very open to new innovations. So
Mm.
definitely, it's not should not be very hard. We can always discuss some new technologies. Of course, I'm not going into details because this is not
Yeah,
something we
it's
have
cool.
finalized on. So
Mm.
yes, it is possible.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Walid, and thank you so much, Ronish. I believe I don't have any more questions right now. But if you have any question, Walid, from Ronish, it would be great if we can discuss it. But if the audience, if you guys have any other question, you can send those questions to sales@innovenso.com. I will hopefully get back to you. And once again, thank you so much, Walid, and thank you so much, Ronish. It was actually pretty great. And I hope to see you guys again soon. And we can have another topic, and soon we can discuss with other scientists as well from the industry. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. And if you guys have anything to add, please go on.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. And it's always interesting to talk more about electrospinning. I think getting introduced to the open surface electrospinner has already introduced a lot of ideas on my head. So thanks for sharing that,
Mhm.
Walid. So yeah, we'll definitely be
No
in talks
problem.
with you to talk further about that technology.
I have
Thank
something to add here. So, Ronish, I wanted to understand, since you're working on a lot of materials, so from
Mhm.
the material perspective and from the technological perspective, I believe you showed that you are doing work in nanotechnology in by using different techniques. So, how do you compare electrospinning uh, as a technology when compared to other technologies? In terms of, I think Becky asked a question on similar lines, but
Mhm.
uh, I'm talking about advantages and disadvantages that you can face in electrospinning.
So, historically, nanofibers the process of making these nanofibers has been pretty complex. It either uses complex chemistry or high temperature coagulation steps. With electrospinning, as I mentioned, it's a pretty simple step. It's a clean step. The solvent is also completely evaporated. In some cases where applicable, the solvent is also able to be recaptured. So there's this advantage in terms of it being a simple process, scalable, and also economically feasible as we go into the larger scales. Yeah, and then with all the variations that we have now with your open surface and then the wire and the nozzle and some coaxial variations that we currently have as well, but trying not only be able to create nanofibers, but different types of nanofibers. The ceramic nanofibers that we make, in fact, are made by incorporating the ceramic additives into a carrier polymer, which is then burned off and made it into a ceramic fiber. Those have been used in battery applications, and which for a customer we were developing that, and they were initially using just microfibers, and with nanofibers, because of the high surface area, they've seen a big boost. So yeah, I mean, it just eliminates a lot of the complex chemistries and high temperature requirements of previous steps. That is why electrospinning is more preferred these days. Yeah.
So about disadvantages, what would you say?
Since it's still pretty much a growing technology. I mean, over the past 2 decades, it's seen a lot of inventions. I mean, I think you are also seeing some some discrepancies with the flow rates and clogging and stuff like that. And that is why I think you've been coming up with the open surface electrospinner as well.
Exactly.
We see that same threshold as well. Sometimes in terms of making extremely thicker materials, like where we have to deposit a lot of material into a specified area, that can cause a lot of issues of buildup and like having charge. We also really need to explore electrospinning onto different types of substrates, or like currently we have a range of substrate that we currently work with in terms of like simply like a paper, non-woven polypropylene backing, but a lot of our cosmetics and medical device customers, they inquire about if we can electrospin into some different kinds of surfaces, different kinds of substrates. Some come to us just for aesthetic reasons, like this substrate is aesthetically more pleasing, so could you electrospin into this? So I think looking more into that also makes sense moving forward, and we've been trying to do whatever we can, like from our side. But yeah, if there was a whole range of substrates that we could work it just from like electrospinning manufacturers like you, then that would also be very helpful.
At our company, we are working with a lot of different substrates. We can do, even in open surface, you can do high production in industrial scale machines. So that is also possible, but these are limitations are always opportunities, I believe, and
Yeah.
we can always make something good out of these limitations. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. And have a good day, Ronish, and a good evening while